Number 10. Angela. Angela is just confusing when it comes to her history. She was basically retconned into being Thor's sister, but originally was not even part of the Marvel world and was a character from Spawn. Neil Gaiman and Todd McFarlane both created her together, but the two ended up in a legal battle over the rights to the character, which Gaiman won. Neil Gaiman then sold her rights to Marvel. Angela is a half-angel who it later turned out was Thor's half-sister, but who had not known of her true heritage, nor had her parents Odin and Freya known of her survival, believing that she died as a baby. In honor of Neil Gaiman, Marvel also had an alternate version of her become the main character of a follow-up, Secret Wars 1602 Angela the Witch Hunter, which makes sense considering that Neil Gaiman himself made the 1602 reality. Number 9. Groot. He might not seem weird now that he's an MCU success story, becoming famous alongside his fellow weirdo hero team in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but when you think about it, Groot is a pretty strange character. He's basically a sentient tree who can move around and only speak 3 words. I am Groot. Though even more bizarrely through these 3 words, he seems to be speaking a whole other language. Initially, Groot wasn't even a hero. When he first was introduced in the 1960s, he was an alien tree invader seeking to experiment on the human race. However, in the 2000s, he would end up becoming repurposed like other members of the MCU Guardians team and end up becoming known as one of the heroes. So his whole history is actually pretty weird too. Now it's been retconned that his original appearance wasn't even him, but another Groot. He could also communicate using more than 3 words in that original appearance. And before we move on to this next spot, if you love Groot as much as I love Groot, as much as we all love Groot, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help. Number 8. Eye-Boy. He's got a higher level perception cause he's covered in eyeballs. It's Eye-Boy. Eye-Boy might seem like a strange mutant and hero, but I cannot deny that I downright love him. Even though, yeah, he's kind of a weird one to look at and to have thought up, I guess. Eye-Boy has since been revealed to have more than just enhanced vision though. He can see things that others can't, basically seeing through to other planes at times, and also seeing and understanding the world around him on an atomic or microscopic level due to his inhuman level of sight. It's a pretty specific power, but it actually can be super useful given the right circumstance. Number 7. Doorman. For some of the weirdest heroes, we can look to the Great Lakes Avengers, who are in general known for being a much more wacky and often eccentric team of heroes whose powers are oddly specific in a way that usually doesn't seem on the surface to be all too useful. Doorman got a power upgrade after his death, but before that his powers weren't really that extraordinary, at least not in how they were presented initially. Also, he was struck with the bizarre name of Doorman, so that probably could have been better. Doorman was so named because he could use his powers to act as a doorway for people, allowing them to pass through solid barriers. This, however, is actually because of Doorman's connection to the Dark Dimension, which he uses to allow people to pass through him, effectively teleporting them through barriers via the Dark Force. His attachment to the Dark Force also gave him a slew of other useful abilities similar to magic or Kitty Pryde. So actually, although Doorman sounds weird, he's actually pretty cool. Number 6. Frogman. Frogman is Eugene Patillo, who set out to redeem his father's name and repurpose his villainous persona, Leapfrog, into something heroic. Instead of being Leapfrog, Eugene then became Frogman. The suit he wears contains electrically powered spring coils which allow him to leap higher than average heights, though not anything crazy, no leaping tall buildings in a single bound or anything like that. Frogman had to team up with the pretty reluctant Spider-Man and in the end even managed to stop a villain, albeit accidentally. This bolstered his confidence, and he has since tried to pursue a life as a heroic vigilante, though many of his successes have less to do with any skills and really more to do with luck. Number 5. Skin. Skin is part of the Gen X mutants. I know what you're thinking, Amanda, another mutant on this list? Why all the mutants? Well, what can I say? We have a lot of mutant heroes, and a lot of mutants tend to get some of the weirdest powers out there. Also, I just like weird mutants, so I have a lot of weird knowledge about them. It's just how it goes. Skin's power is that he can stretch his skin. He basically has a few feet of extra skin which he can manipulate as need be, giving him some minor shapeshifting abilities as well as enhanced durability. Other than being a little gross, the weird thing about Skin is that his powers don't allow him to stretch his body in general, only his epidermis. His skin is affected when it comes to his powers. His skin also tends to be presented as remaining loose after stretching, so it might stretch well, but it doesn't necessarily have the elasticity, the bounce back that you normally expect when you're talking about skin having, good stretch. Just usually you're like, skin stretchy, and then it like goes back. No, not in this case. It's unfortunate, I think. But oh well, he's accepted it. I like that. There's also a fun story where Skin actually learned how to like make himself look normal, but it just takes so much energy. He's like, dude, I'm just gonna be like this and it's fine. Which I love. Just love yourself. That's what it's all about. Number 4, Maggot. Maggot is one of the weirdest mutants out there, although strangely enough, he isn't weird because he's not powerful. He actually can be pretty powerful. He's got power, but from a bizarre source. Maggot has 2 sentient maggots who live inside his digestive tract named Eenie and Meanie, but who can painfully leave his body via his stomach in order to go eat pretty much anything in our world, and after doing so and returning to Maggot's stomach, pass on this nourishment and energy to him, enhancing his strength and his durability. His maggots can also potentially be used like kind of weird attack dogs, where Maggot could, in theory, threaten to devour those who get in his way, although it wouldn't be very heroic of him to do so, of course. I can't help it. Every time I'm thinking of powers, I'm like, what is the villainous way that you could use this which would be so good? That's where my mind goes. Number 3, the Almighty Dollar. The Almighty Dollar is J. Pennington Pennypacker, a minor superhero who appears alongside his fellow heroes on the team, the Happy Campers. They likely get their name from the fact that they all received their powers while attending what Pennypacker thought was a self-esteem camp, but was actually a front for scientists looking to experiment with a device that would grant those exposed to it superpowers. Pennypacker gained the ability to fire pennies from his wrists, which wouldn't be very useful today in Canada, where pennies we don't even make them even anymore, and we all round up our cents. But it was good enough to help him and his fellow campmates rise up and escape their captors, so guess it's not that bad. Number 2, Dupe. Unsurprisingly, yes, a lot of our weird heroes are going to come from the mutant side of things and the X-Men team. Although I don't know if it's ever actually been cemented exactly really what Dupe is at all, never mind if he's truly a mutant. Dupe has to be one of the weirdest characters of all time, especially when it comes to his storylines. Dupe is also weirdly romantic for a floating green alien language speaking creature that was possibly created by the government as a result of an experiment. Why is he on the X-Men again? Yet also, despite this origins, he somehow has a mother. Dupe has been seen having romantic relationships with other characters like Warbird, and even at one point proposed to Kitty Pryde. Kitty did not marry him, just so you know. Number 1, Phone Ranger. The Phone Ranger is about as weird as he sounds. Armed with alien space tech that can tap into any communication technology, A.G. Bell, the phone repairman, decided to become a superhero. While he may be a ridiculous looking product of the 1980s, Phone Ranger actually also comes equipped with a bunch of communications technology, which also allows him to utilize and integrate with any other comms tech that he comes across. Basically, he's like a spokesperson for phone tapping, trying to make the whole idea of it seem more heroic. Needless to say, Phone Ranger has only been featured in a few issues of Marvel Comics overall, and hasn't been seen since the first superhero Civil War, and I don't think we'll be seeing him anytime soon. But maybe, I don't know. Who wants to write a Phone Ranger series out there? Any writers interested in that?
Alright, we've got to start the list off with Father Time, and yes, I said Father Time. No better gentleman to start off with. So he made his first appearance in Blonde Phantom Comics issue 22. He was referred to as the Dispatcher of Destiny, cool nickname, and he even went hand to hand with Captain America at some point as well. And at one point he even scrapped Captain America. I would love to see Father Time fight Captain America also. I'd pay like $60 easy to watch that movie. He was the protector of time, so his job was to commemorate significant events, and his way of doing that was by making a nice little collection of legendary people and then grabbing them and putting them into another dimension for their safety. What a weird way to do things. Yeah, he tried to kidnap Captain America in order for him to be a legend. Like, you're doing great. He did similar things for other legendary Americans too, like John Henry and Uncle Sam. And of course, Father Time is immortal. And before we go on to some other wacky characters you may not have known about, if you guys could go ahead and give us a thumbs up on our channel because it really helps us out quite a bit. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching and supporting. Now back to this weird list. Number 9, Howard the Duck. He was there in the final battle against Thanos in Avengers Endgame in a blink and you'll miss it cameo. But who is this guy? Like, for real. He's on Earth now, we gotta ask some questions. Is he in the MCU? Is he gonna stay? What's going on? He was actually the first ever live action Marvel hero when his first solo adventure came out back in 1986 with Michael J. Fox. He made his first named appearance in Man-Thing issue 1. He was hatched on Duckworld, obviously, and it resembles Earth quite a bit, except for the whole, ducks who speak English part. That's the minor difference. He lived in New Stork, again, obviously, and he was the son of Ronald and Henrietta. And as a kid, he knew he was smart, but these bullies kept getting involved and they kept pushing him down. Damn bullies. Then Thog, the Nether Spawn, used his magic and caused the interdimensional cosmic axis to shift. And then he was sent to our world in the middle of Florida, of all places. I feel like if that Florida headline came out, people wouldn't be too shocked. They're like, Howard the Duck? What month is it? We wouldn't be shocked at this point, is all I'm saying. 2021, bring on Howard. Number 8, 3D Man. Okay, for this next one, make sure to put on our 3D glasses. It's gonna get trippy and also pretty weird. Meet Charles Chandler. He made his grand entrance in the world of Marvel Comics back in 1977 in Marvel Premiere issue 35. Honestly, this guy could drop a live action movie tomorrow and I still wouldn't see it in 3D. No chance. Even if James Cameron did it and had like every great actor, I'd be like, no, it hurts my eyes. It hurts my eyes. I'm sorry. You hurt my eyes, 3D man. I don't like you. So he's an American test pilot who got his powers from radiation after an explosion while escaping Skrulls. His image was imprinted onto his brother's glasses because of the explosion. So now when his brother Hal focuses, Charles can come back as this 3D man. Honestly, I hope we see this movie soon. I feel like John Hamm would kill it, like unironically. He would show up and do it. Everyone would give him shit online, and then it would make like $7 billion. Number 7, Squirrel Girl. Doreen Aline Green, awesome name. She made her first appearance in Marvel Superheroes Volume 2, Issue 8, and she began a hero after suffering a modification in her genes that granted her squirrel-like abilities. So she thought she was a mutant for sure. Like, she thought that was the case for a while, because, the whole tail and all. But then when she turned 10, she realized she can talk to squirrels. I mean, sure, that's kind of weird, and maybe it's enough weird to get her on this list, but she's pretty awesome. Like, on her first adventure, she saved Tony Stark. She's great. And it was actually speculated too that her and Wolverine were a thing at one point. Because in Wolverine issue 8, Emma Frost had entered Wolverine's mind and literally found a room called Sexual Fantasies. Emma says, I know I'm gonna regret this, and maybe she was right, because when she opens the door, she sees a Squirrel Girl standing there in this Sexual Fantasies room. So there's clearly some history there, or there's about to be some history there. Number 6, Throg. The Frog of Thunder, ladies and gentlemen, of course they're in this list. Simon Walterson made his comic book debut back in LOCKJAW and the Pet Avengers issue 1, and this version is quite noteworthy, okay? So he started off the usual way a Frog of Thunder starts, a college football star at Mississippi State University. After being drafted, a knee injury left him unable to play anymore, and as if things couldn't get worse, he lost his wife, and after battling depression, decided to take his pain to a witch to connect to the afterlife. Super relatable, we've all been there. So he was able to communicate with his wife, and then he wasn't able to pay this witch after he was done. Dine and dash on a witch. Buddy, good game. So now this very upset witch, who has to pay her phone bills and doesn't have any moolah to do so, decides to get a little payback and turns Simon into a frog. Yep, he was soon given the name Puddle Gulp after meeting the other frogs of New York. The other frogs of New York is what I said, yep, absolutely. And then he comes across a small piece of Mjolnir, and then there you have it. The Frog of Thunder has risen. And if you haven't seen any of Throg, you gotta check it out, because it's quite riveting. I mean riveting. Number 5, Spider-Ham. This next one is quite weird, but now it's actually quite popular since John Mulaney voiced this weird alternate Spider-Man on the big screen. So this Earth 8311 version of the web slinger is of course named Peter Porker. And he made his first debut in Marvel Tales, like Tales, starring Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham 1, back in November 1983. So we have Peter Porker, the pig, photographer, crime fighter, all that jazz that we love. Sweet. And the villain in this issue is actually none other than Dr. Doom. And he's actually too cute. You can't help but think he's a cutie. I know Dr. Doom's like a bad guy, but it's Dr. Doom. You look at him, you're like, oh, You can do what you want, fine. Take over the world, rule everything, I don't care. Now, the best feature of Spider-Ham is that he of course has the quips and powers to go along with it, but he also has what's called Spider Nonsense, which is this ability that allows him to be more cartoon-like the more danger that he's in, which makes for a good time, both on screen and on the page. Number 4, LOCKJAW. Making his first appearance in Fantastic Four issue 45, LOCKJAW is a giant dog with antenna growing out of his head. So, congratulations, you've made the list already. He's part of the Inhumans. He's actually the loyal pet of the Inhumans. So he was born from an experiment. He's actually one of 5 in a litter that was meant to have powers. Only he was the only one with powers. The other 4 were born just normal. So he teleported the other 4 pups to safety at different locations, and then he reappeared to make it look like he was the only one born. The Avengers have a helicarrier, and the Inhumans have a giant teleportation dog. Number 3, Gib. Making his first appearance in Runaways Volume 5, Issue 13, Gib was the last of the Gibram left on Earth, and he's of course a member of the Runaways. The seed of the Gibram discovered the Runaways and were going to demand that they honor their parents' promise. The seed of the Gibram discovered the Runaways and were going to demand that they honor their parents' promise, which was to inherit the Earth, empowered by the billions of sacrificed souls. Okay. Thankfully, the Runaways prevented that from happening, and they trapped the Gibram in limbo. So Gib was tasked to stay with the Runaways and guard them for about a week or so. So during this time with the Runaways, Gib started to like the new company. He saw their kindness and compassion, and then when Rim and Bo returned, Gib tried to convince them to forego the Right of Thunder. See, Gib's got our backs. All the while, Gert was preparing to send them 999 years into the future. So the Runaways welcomed Gib with open arms, and they even helped him find an alternate meal plan, rather than feasting on sacrificed souls and all. Have you heard of Subway? I don't know, just a suggestion. His appearance is pretty weird and fun, and his powers include enhanced strength and shapeshifting. Yeah, Gib matches the appearance of the people surrounding him, and apparently his true form would cause your eyes to bleed. So if you're gonna play Marco Polo with Gib, don't peek, because your eyes will not hurt from the chlorine, but they'll also be disintegrated, apparently. So if you're playing Marco Polo with Gib, don't peek, or the chlorine won't be the only thing hurting your eyes after. Number 2, Beta Ray Bill. This dude is coming to the MCU. I mean, we think. It's been teased numerous times now, but who exactly is Beta Ray Bill? The Marvel Comics universe is home to the Corbinites, and amongst them is the powerful Beta Ray Bill. Making his first appearance back in 1983 in Thor issue 337, this version of Thor is recognized widely by his hammer, in that it's actually Stormbreaker, which we finally see in Infinity War for the first time. So Beta Ray Bill was actually the first character to lift Mjolnir besides Thor or Odin. He's a pretty big deal. Odin actually made Thor and Beta Ray Bill fight, and after Beta Ray Bill won, he refused to kill Thor, questioning Odin and the rules of the hammer in the meantime. Okay, cool. He's a cool guy. He breaks his system, okay? He then asked if he can use his hammer later on in life, after he's gained wisdom and all that nice stuff. So Odin decides, you know what, I'm just gonna give you your own hammer, and then he gave him Stormbreaker. Bones of a Corbinite were teased in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then his face, we think, was seen in Thor Ragnarok. So hopefully, we're finally getting this guy in action in the MCU soon. And finally, number 1, the weirdest of them all, Hindsight Lad. Carlton Lefroy made his comic book debut in New Warriors Annual Issue 3 back in 1993. He's a computer genius, expert strategist, amateur machinesmith, accomplished researcher, trivia enthusiast, a gifted gamer, all with no powers at all. And under weaknesses, it just says Carlton requires corrective lenses. Like, okay, great. Superman's weakness, kryptonite. Hindsight Lad? Oof, well, with the wrong prescription, he gets headaches. So here's how he became a superhero in the Marvel Universe. Carlton figured out that his neighbor, Robbie, was secretly the superhero Speedball. So this dude threatened to tell everybody unless he was allowed to join the New Warriors. Yeah, just like that. So meet Hindsight Lad. I wish this guy was in the MCU. I mean, I would love to see him and his helmet just get rocked by Thanos. He's like, excuse me, sir, you can't take the stones, because technically if you do, then Bye. See ya. He looks like a guy who's always worried about feeding the meter. He's like, I gotta go. What time is it? Kicking off the list at number 10, Grey Hulk. One of the more badass versions of the Hulk was also the earliest. See, originally Stan Lee wanted the Hulk to be gray, but ink problems made him green. The Incredible Hulk made his first smashing appearance in 1962 when a teenager, Rick Jones, was about to be caught up in a gamma bomb test. Scientist Bruce Banner ran out and threw him to safety, but in doing so he himself was caught in said explosion, and in turn he was irradiated with radioactive particles, becoming the Grey Hulk. Our green guy, the main 616 Hulk, is referred to as the Savage Hulk, and Grey Hulk is said to be weaker. They made him an entirely different version in the comics to help explain the color change. They were both fighting to control Bruce. Things get spicy during Peter David's run when we meet Joe Fixit, this mobster Grey Hulk working at a casino. Imagine this guy asking you for your ID. I would bring 5 pieces and a passport just to be safe. So intimidating. And his hat too, like he looks friendly, but he also looks like when he shakes your hand, he's gonna break all your knuckles. Number 9, SKULK. Coming to life in Doctor Strange Fate issue 1 back in 1996, Marvel's Bruce Banner combined with DC's Solomon Grundy. How fun. Another gray version, but a little more out there this time around. Solomon appeared right before Bruce Banner was caught in that gamma bomb explosion, so now the two ended up fusing together, creating SKULK. SKULK was taught by Doctor Strange Fate that in order to remain in human form, you need the assistance of magic. Black Widow's palm dances will not work in this universe, my friend. So Banner was like, alright, I'll work for you, just make sure I don't become that awful pale monster. Deal? Deal. Great, awesome. SKULK's last comic was in Lobo the Duck issue 1 just a year later. He died in the destruction caused by the Gold Kidney Lady. Yes, you heard me correctly. And before we list off some other fun versions of the Hulk, if you want to SKULK smash that like button, that would be lovely. Those clicks really do help us out a lot here. You all rock. Now let's keep this list going. Number 8, Peter Parker. Looking now to the 2006 bullet point storyline, if you haven't already guessed from the title, this one's a superhero swap. We love those. Now this is a life where Uncle Ben, well, still died, but he died a lot earlier, so unfortunately he wasn't around to mentor Peter. Give him the whole with great power comes great responsibility rundown. So now Peter's stealing Jeeps, he's blasting Green Day and flipping off the elderly, just the complete opposite guy that we know and love. During the Jeep joyride, it ran out of gas, so Sneaky Pete went off to look for some more to help fill up. Now while he was searching, that's when he just happened to stumble across that gamma bomb test, and he didn't realize that he had this Hulk side to him until later on that night. His friends got in trouble, so they blamed Peter, and that's when he got really angry, and then he turned into the Hulk for the first time. It was nuts. Aunt May straight up had a heart attack. More than fair. After this point, retired Steve Rogers came back, suited up as Iron Man, and then began hunting him down. This universe is crazy. Peter Hulk killed Steve Rogers, and he didn't go down until Galactus arrived on Earth. Not a bad run. Number 7, Ultimate Hulk. This version of Bruce is quite troubled. He was taught to just stay out of his parents' way growing up, and he also hated himself pretty much. He wanted to be ripped like Captain America, he didn't like his noodle arms. It was a rough go for him in the Ultimate Universe. So when Nick Fury got together the brightest minds to recreate the Super Soldier Serum, Envious Banner was on that team. He did figure it out, I mean, or so he thought, but he kept the info to himself. He didn't want any other scientist getting credit. But he took it a little bit too far when he also decided to keep the human testing process to himself as well. He injected himself and became Ultimate Hulk. The first time he changed, he injured Mary and Richard Parker, but down the road he injected himself again, but this time he mixed Super Soldier Serum with Hulk Serum, and then he turned to gray, and his first plan of attack was, of course, as you would think, to fight Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah. Number 6, Infernal Hulk. First appearing in Deadpool Annual 1, this version picks up after Bruce Banner became the Sorcerer Supreme, and his first trick was to separate the Hulk from himself and just banish him as far away as possible. And what better place to throw him than the pits of hell? While in the land down under, Hulk became Infernal Hulk. A little more scary looking than Joe Fixit, just a little bit. So when our 616 Banner arrived to this universe with Spider-Man, Infernal Hulk traded places in hell with the other Bruce's Hulk persona. So now that Infernal Hulk is free and he's going back after Banner. He's pissed. So Deadpool, Spidey, and Supreme Banner, they all figured, okay, let's just reverse this banishing spell, and then as soon as Banner shows back up, we break his neck. Alright, go team, let's do it. Number 5, Hulk 2099. John Eisenhart this time around made his first appearance in 2099 Unlimited issue 1 back in 1993. This is the future, of course, one of many alternate Marvel futures where heroes are simply no more. But fear not, as we still have cults. Thank God, you gotta have those cults. One cult called the Knights of Banner was piquing the interest of Eisenhardt, but at this point, he was this LA movie studio guy and he wanted to make a movie about these knights or this Hulk cult or whatever. They're pretty much us in the future. They worship the Hulk, they have meetings, they talk about him, they probably create top 10 lists, I don't know. But when they turned down the money and said beat it, Eisenhardt wasn't happy. So he tricked one of the young members, Gawain, into spilling the beans about the cult and how they're performing illegal gamma experiments. Gawain is actually a reference to Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, an Arthurian story that combined the beheading game and the exchange of winnings. And that's exactly what happened here. John reported this cult and its new secrets and the police raided and killed everybody. All but Gawain. So John tried to fix what he'd caused, but it was far too late. After a gamma bomb went off, he was turned into the 2099 Hulk. Consumed now with guilt as well, he vowed to protect the young knight, and when Draco killed Gawain, spoilers, he figured he would just defend the people from future threats. Number 4. Compound Hulk. First appearing in Hulk Volume 2, Issue 30, Clue is a smarter version of that Grey Hulk that I mentioned earlier in this list. He's an advanced clone rather, created by Xemnu. Now Clue was the result of a cloning gone wrong, classic, and then when Clue and Xemnu were fighting Red Hulk, Impossible Man came in, he was watching the whole thing, and he used his powers to merge both of those guys into the compound Clue. He didn't last long at all, but anytime the words merge and Hulk are in play, it's bound to get weird. Number 3. Venom Hulk. Venom Hulk is as terrifying as you think. It all goes down in What If Issue 4. It shows us what would happen if the alien costume had possessed Spider-Man. So if the Fantastic Four hadn't have been able to separate Peter and the suit initially. It's a fun little alternative. It gets pretty ugly quickly and the other Avengers are called upon to try and stop Peter from causing more irreversible damage. Doctor Strange is hurling spells at him for hours, still it's no use. And you'd think when the Hulk came along he could just, huck Peter into a few walls until he calms down. But he arrives and the symbiote sees his power and he's like, that looks pretty good, I want that, give me. And then when it comes into contact with the Hulk, this nightmare is born. When Thor comes in to hopefully try and end this disaster of a situation, he too is consumed by the symbiote. I really hope we get to see some sort of evil version of the Hulk in this What If Disney show. I mean, Venom Hulk would be amazing. I would love to see this issue on TV. Might be a little long shot, but maybe Grey Hulk perhaps, I don't know. Some sort of evil Hulk is coming, I feel it. Number 2. Lizard Hulk. Still green this time around, just a little more wet and scaly. He comes from Earth 19919. Robert Banner, of course, has a similar origin as the Hulk that we're now familiar with, only he was infected by the spider virus in Spider Island Issue 1. So a little more this time around. Now he's got extra arms and he's even more powerful. Just what you want. The Spider Queen at this point is standing tall over Manhattan with the residents of New York City turning into spiders, which I gotta say, worst thing I've ever heard. I feel itchy just reading that. And as for our heroes, it's probably best if they switch to a different animal's DNA to avoid the whole mind control Spider Queen awful situation. So Captain America gets a hairy upgrade and the Hulk gets paired with some lizard DNA, resulting in a weird but exciting storyline. Major Godzilla vibes over here. And finally, number 1, you guessed it, Old Man Logan. Remember that time that the Hulk was a landlord and had Hulklings with his cousin Jen Walters? Let's talk about it. Old Man Logan is an absolute masterpiece, first of all. Created by Mark Miller and Steve McNiven, we get to see a dark future where supervillains have taken over the United States. Bruce Banner ended up taking over California from Abomination and appropriately named it Hulkland. An atomic bomb over California changed Bruce up, he charged him, and now he wasn't this quirky scientist that you know and love. Now he's kind of a dick. Hulk Gang is also a treat. We have in total Bobby Joe, Charlie, Otis, Rufus, Bo, Elrod, Eustace, and of course Woody. Good old Woody Banner, what a gem. They come knocking on your door when you don't pay rent. Yeah, and you thought your landlord sucked. Think again. They're honestly evil, like they're literally evil. They killed Logan's family because they felt like it. They were bored. They whip around in style with the Fantastic Car, and then when Logan returned from his road trip with Hawkeye, well, he was a little upset to say the least. The only survivor once Logan was done with them was Billy Bob Banner.
Number 10. Secret Agent Matt. What if Daredevil never became Daredevil at all, but instead Matt Murdock became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? That's the story told in this What If issue we get from Volume 1 of the series in issue 28. Here we get to see an alternate reality where Daredevil never even became Daredevil. Tony Stark happened to be the one responsible for the accident that blinded young Matt, as it was his truck filled with toxic chemicals that was driving through the city when Matt had his fateful accident. When he learned of what happened, he decided to turn over Matt to S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D., hoping that they could help him. Nick Fury saw great potential in Matt Murdock and trained him to become a secret agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. Matt goes on a mission to rescue his dad, who is kidnapped by Hydra, and in the end joins up with the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. Number 9. House of M. Although Daredevil wasn't one of the main players in the House of M storyline, an alternate reality created by Scarlet Witch, he still existed in this reality. Here, Matt Murdock was still a lawyer and was even lucky enough to tangle with She-Hulk. Despite the fact that he and She-Hulk are both lawyers, they don't really team up a lot in the main continuity, nor are they a couple. But in House of M issue number 3, we learn of a rumor floating around the Jade Giantess She-Hulk that she has the hots for Matt, and that both lawyers have been seen canoodling in and around the courthouse. What a scandal. And friends, before I move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more good Top 10 Nerd content, you need to check out our newest channel, Top 10 Nerd Elite. Go on over there, hit that subscribe, go to a video and type a little comment and be like, hey Amanda, I'm here, I did it. Number 8. Dare the Terminator. Dare the Terminator comes to us from the Amalgam Universe and is a combined version of both Marvel's Daredevil and DC's Deathstroke the Terminator. A strange but cool fact about Dare is that she's a woman, despite the fact that both the characters that were amalgamated together to create her in this universe are male. Dare, however, also received her name from the fact that she is a fearless Daredevil who few dare to challenge. She had horns surgically grafted onto her head by enemy the Big Question, aka Enigma Fisk, and she is also missing an eye. Kinda got like, of course she's an Amalgam character, so she's got a little bit of both things going on there. Number 7. Daredevil 2099. This alternate version of Matt Murdock's character comes to us from one of the 2099 universes. Sam Fisk in the future is the heir to the Kingpin legacy, but finds himself struggling with guilt surrounding that legacy. To counterbalance all the bad his grandfather has wrought, Samuel Fisk decides to become the new Daredevil in the future, becoming our Daredevil 2099 over 2992. Kind of weird to think that in the great Marvel multiverse, there is a reality where it is Wilson Fisk's ancestor and not Matt's that becomes the new Daredevil. But this weird fact is also what makes Samuel Fisk so interesting as DD as well. Number 6. Belasco. On Earth X, there are actually a few different versions of Daredevil. Most people probably think of the actual character who appears severely depressed and to kind of crave his own death, who goes by the name Daredevil, but there are actually a few others besides. One version is also an alternate of Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner. This alternate version of the character ends up becoming Belasco, but later settles down in Hell's Kitchen, choosing to operate as a hero for a time and protecting that neighborhood. So he's literally a red devil of a demon man running around Hell's Kitchen, acting as its guardian. A pretty cool Earth 9997 visual reference or alternate to Earth 616's DD. Number 5. Exiles. The alternate Daredevil of Earth 181 is a version we see in the Exiles. Any reality where Daredevil serves the Kingpin to me is weird, which is why this version makes our cut. After serving on the Weapon X team at the behest of the Timebreakers, this version was held captive in a crystal palace, instead of being sent home as promised. However, when he did return home, we learned that Daredevil on Earth 181 is a brutalizer who works for the Kingpin and seems to genuinely enjoy violently attacking his targets. Number 4. 1602. The 1602 version of Matt Murdock is kinda weird in the sense that he became blind and received his powers from venturing into a cave and eating green, glowing goop that he found there. The whole point of this version of the story is to show how fearless of a character Matt was, but still, it's pretty weird, even given how fearless he was, that he'd ingest mysterious glowing green goo. That sounds like it could be slightly crossing the line from fearless to just plain stupid territory. Of course, sometimes those two traits do go hand in hand, so fair, I guess. Needless to say, it all worked out in the end, as that is where 1602's Matthew Murdock, also known as Sir Devil or the Bard, got his powers from. Oh yes, instead of living in his civilian life as a lawyer, Matthew here poses as a blind balladeer, a singer, but in secret operates as an expensive adventurer for hire or a bodyguard. Number 3. Kingpin. Never mind a reality where Daredevil works for Kingpin, how about a reality where Matt Murdock never becomes Daredevil and instead becomes a deadly deadly assassin working for the Hand who eventually rises in their ranks and, seeking more power, works for Kingpin, eventually taking the title for himself as he builds his own crime syndicate. That is exactly what happens on Earth 65, where Matt Murdock is more criminal than anything. He started out down the path of a hero, but after Stick, who took him under his wing, was killed, he fell into the hands, or hand really, of the Hand. This set him down a dark path towards villainy as he became more and more obsessed with power. Number 2. Earth 666. On Earth 666, Daredevil is a literal devil who dares to join the other undead heroes to assemble as the Avengers of the Undead. We don't know much about this alternate version as he's only made an appearance in a few issues, but we can assume his abilities are similar to his 616 counterpart, with one of the major differences from 616 DD being that he actually appears to be a real Red Devil with giant horns coming out of his head. You can catch this alternate version of the hero in the 2010 Secret Avengers series in issues 33 to 36. Number 1. Daredevil. He's a deer devil. Daredevil was only briefly mentioned by Peter Porker and hails from his reality of Earth 25. What's so strange about this alternate version of Matt? You guessed it, he's a deer, hence the name Daredevil. Daredevil's civilian name here is actually also different from the 616 counterpart, and it is Bat Burdock, and he made his first appearance in the Spider-Ham 25th anniversary special from June of 2010. Daredevil was one of the heroes who Peter Porker got to know along the way as he transitioned from just being a regular young pig to the hero Spider-Ham. As Peter Porker reminisces on his past, we see Daredevil's head among the other characters that Spider-Ham has encountered within his past.